The way I always explain it is you take a piece of pie, a whole pie, not a slice, but a whole pie, and you say, I'm going to take a slice of that pie today. Well, that slice of pie has now been removed. You only have 90% of that pie left. You took 10% of it out. Well, similarly, take your body, and if you have a 10% disability, but you still have 90%, that's good. In the same sense that you had 90% of the pie that was left, assuming a slice of pie is 10% of the pie. If you take another slice out of that pie, you're only taking 10% of the good 90% out of that pie. If you had a second disability that was also 10% disabling, you would only get 10% of the 90% remaining, which would be 9%. So 10% plus 10% in the VA world is 19%. Let's say hypothetically a veteran is at 90% exactly, and they got another 40% disability for asthma. They're only at 94% now because there is only 10% of the pie. If you remember our analogy, there's only 10% of that pie left, which is one slice. If you take 40% of that 10%, it's only 4%. And you're going to take that 4% and you're going to add it to the 90, which was our starting point, and you're only at 94%. And that 94% rounds you right back down to 90, and they don't see another dollar. They say, well, I got a 40% increase, but I didn't get any more money. It's because you're still at 90%, and the VA pays in 10% increments rounded up and down on the 5. So nerve and musculoskeletal joint conditions are what we're talking about when you're talking about the bilateral factor. So take that VA math and that analogy we just walked through. 10% plus 10% equals 19% in the VA world. Now let's adjust the facts, tweak them a little bit, and call them an extremity. By extremity, I mean left arm, left leg, right leg. So your upper and lower extremities, respectively. And what the bilateral factor is if you have a 10% left knee condition and a 10% right knee condition, they say that you're at 19% using the VA math. But they also say you have two extremities, on two lower extremities that are both affected to a compensable degree, meaning 10% or higher. And they say there's got to be something more we can give these veterans because both of their lower extremities are affected. So they take that 19% and they say, we're going to give you another 10% of 19%, which is 1.9%. And they add it on the back end. So if you have a veteran with a left and right knee condition, both compensated at 10%, they're going to actually compensate you at 20.9%, which rounds up to 21%, because you get that extra 1.9% for the bilateral factor. Now, if you had a left leg and a right arm condition, both at 10%, you don't get it. The bilateral factor requires two lower extremity conditions or two upper of bilateral sides.